Welcome to Complexity Made Simple. My name is Paul Allen, and before we get into today's video, well, I'm just going to remind you the 3 books that are on sale. Drink tea and read the paper. If you're a green belt and a black belt and you want simple instruction on how to apply your skill, design of experiments for 21st century engineers, and finally a statistical process control for small batch production. They are all available from lulu.com and the links are in the video below. Welcome to Complexity Made Simple. My name is Paul Allen, and the subject of today's video newsletter, well, we're going to stick with some lean subjects today, and what we're going to take a look at is how you organize your warehouses. Are you a lean company, but you organize your warehouse in a random pattern and then use software to put the stock away and to remember where you've put it? Or do you have fixed locations? So let's take a look at this. We are going to talk about random storage in a warehouse. This is pretty much one of the most non-lean techniques you can use, pretty much guaranteed to drive extra cost and extra stock. So basically what you're doing, of course, is you're setting up your warehouses and you're saying, well, you can put any part in any place. And the reason that you do this is because what you allow to do is you allow the computer, you allow the MRP system, you allow SAP, you allow Oracle to decide when and how much to buy. And because what the system does is sometimes it'll buy a large batch, sometimes it'll reduce the batch right down. If you allowed it to do that and you fixed this location, so you said, no, you know, a particular part A lives in these locations here. Of course, you'd have to have an enormous amount of space because the computer would buy a huge amount of stock, then it would go small amount of stock. So in order to deal with that, what do? Well, you randomly store. It's the only way to deal with the fact that the computer is doing that damage to you. And of course, when you don't have a lot of part A and you have maybe a lot of part B kicking about in the warehouse, you can use the space that A has freed up for the amount that B is now taking up. And of course, the stock is just dramatically moving on all your parts. So that's the reason why we tend to go for random storage. But this is one of the most inefficient things you can do. It's guaranteed to drive cost and stock absolutely crazy. Let's take a look at a simple little case study where they wanted to speed up the process of picking some parts, and they had random storage, and they haven't fixed the storage completely, but they've behaved in a much more sensible manner and immediately knocked 30% off the activity. So let's just take a look at a simple case study, and then we'll come back and we'll sum up the positives and the negatives of random storage. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we are. I've got up an analysis that they did of a pick. So this diagram, you can see it's a manual diagram, and it's an analysis of the warehouse and where the picking list drove the picker to pick from. And you can see that the random system is doing exactly what you'd expect it to do. There's pretty much no pattern to where the parts were stored. Sometimes he's going deep into the racking, sometimes, I say sometimes, but actually given the fact that this is the work area here, only once, look, did he go to the short end of the travel, if you like. And you can see here that they've quantified the approximate travel length for these 41 items as 1,458 yards. Call it 1,400 meters if meters is your measure of choice. And this company, as I say, they store randomly, and they would like to speed this process up. And I said to them, well, get away from random storage, because that's the fastest way to make money in a warehouse, is to store in a non-random, in a fixed pattern. So one of the things they did was they said, well, we don't want to do that. We don't want to fix everything. But if we do an analysis of the common used items, let's take a look at the items that we seem to be visiting an awful lot. And they've put this line in here, look, at 20%. So just 9 items, I think, make up 80% of all the touches. 80% of all the touches in their picking procedure. So very simple little analysis. And by the way, I would expect anybody's analysis to come out like this, that very quickly you've got some fast moving parts. 80% of what you're touching is in a small number of parts. Anybody could gain this efficiency, and this is free. I mean, this is so easy to do. You could do this analysis in literally half an hour and gain this extra efficiency out of your warehouse picking process if you wanted to. So having found those items, what they've now decided to do, look, is to define this front section of the warehouse. So the parts are still sort of randomly picked. But what they're going to do is the most commonly used item, look, is going to go in these areas. So there's still an element of choice. There's still an element of space being free to be used for different parts. But we're going to put the real fast movers dead center and front of the racking. Then we've got sort of medium speed, if you like, just behind that in the green area, and then the blue here on the ends, the blue and the black. They're still fast movers, but they're just a little bit further out. So, little bit of flexibility, but also a little bit of fixing the location for speed of use. Now look, immediately look, what have we down to here? 900 yards from 1,400 yards. Yeah, we've just knocked 550 yards out of the picking process. And this was such a simple thing to do. And by the way, don't forget, this isn't just about it saved this distance for picking. You've got to put it away as well. So you are doubling the benefit, because you've also saved 550 yards putting this stuff away. Very quick and easy benefit. So let's go back to the whiteboard and let's sum up what the pluses and the minuses are of using a system like this. Okay, so you could see how easy that was, and you can see what the benefit is. Now people are going to say, but it's the stock problem, that's why we do it. Yeah, but the reason why you do it is because you let the computer buy the stock. Now let me ask you this, do you ever run out of stock? Do you ever seem to have too much stock? So the question is, does the system you have really work? So let's compare random. So we can store randomly against fixed location. Okay. So if you store randomly, the problems you tend to get, you get poor efficiency, picking it, putting it away. What else do you tend to get? Well, you tend to get more equipment. You're going to have to give the people more equipment to do this, because of course the person picking here, the items could be anywhere. They could be at the top of the shelf, the back of the shelf. So what do you tend to do? Well, you tend to buy this off by giving them a forklift truck or giving them a picking truck or whatever it is you buy. Well, if everybody's got to get up to the top and everybody's got to get to the back, everybody's going to need a piece of kit here. So you're typically going to have more equipment. You also get the double movements. This is another problem with this technique. You see, if you happen to put 1,000 in here, and then of course another pallet comes, so you put 1,000 there, and then you get 2 picks for 600. So this pick here is for 600, this pick here is for 600. Of course, what do you get? Well, you get 400 left in those 2 locations. So now the next pick, if the next pick is for 450, what does the computer have to do? Well, it has to send you to get the 400 from here, and then it has to send you to get the 50 from there. And of course, the other problem you've got is even before it does that, this is a half-use space and this is a half-use space. So your space utilization is usually bloody awful, even though you think this is a better way of using space. So you get this double movement, because in order to satisfy an order, you're going to have to go and pick in 2 or 3 places to make up the total quantity. So it makes it even worse. Oops, makes it even worse. So what else have we got? Double moving, you've got the equipment. Of course, you have to have expensive software to do this. So you've got software, which means we've got computers, equipment, we've got to buy it, we've got to pay for it, we've got to pay for the electricity, we've got to train people to use it, and we've probably got to upgrade the software now and again, and of course you've got to upgrade the computers, you've got to upgrade the software. If you use random storage, the costs are enormous. And you see, this is where lean works. People think, where does lean save money from? Well, it saves money by not over processing, by not buying all this crap. We don't need all this stuff. We can use a simple system. So if we fix the location, well, what are the benefits? Of course, the first one you've already seen. We can optimize for efficiency. So the faster movers are easy to put in the location closest to the activity, and they will always be there. They will be fixed. Now, don't get me wrong, now and again you might have to modify this. Every year, 2 years, new parts come, parts become obsolete, etc. You're going to have to maintain this, but for the majority of the time it's going to be optimized for efficiency. It's also going to be, of course, optimized for equipment, because of course if you're not doing all this traveling, maybe you don't need to give a forklift truck to everybody. Maybe you can share one, because it's such a rare thing that you go to the back of the shelf and the top of the shelf that they can actually share pieces of equipment. So it's optimized for equipment. Now here's where it really starts to pay off. Because you have a fixed location, you can put visual signals at the point of activity. In other words, the buy signal. Yeah, so the buy or the replenish, buy or make, to be honest, the buy or the make signal is based on the fact that there's a space in the warehouse. When we hit a minimum level, we buy or make some more. Of course, these visual signals, they are cheap, and better than that, they are always accurate. Because if it's gone off the shelf, it's gone. You need to buy some more These are the fast movers that you're doing this with. You need some more. Don't need a computer, don't need training, don't need to keep upgrading. All of these costs are just not there. Because this is accurate, it works. You never stock out of something that's a fast mover and you look a complete fool when that happens. How can we possibly stock out of things that we use every day? You will find, if you use this technique and you use the visual system to replenish, you will have between 30 to 50% less stock. How about that? So of course the space works not because we're using the space more or less efficiently, because we've just got less stuff around us. We've got less stuff around us. So you don't need this space, you don't need this software, because you have a system that manages. You can never go above the max. There is a fixed limit to how much money you're going to invest in each stock item, and there's a ceiling, and the system won't allow you to go above that because the way that you've set up the pull signals. Now there's one red flag here, and it's a big one. You've got to get good at this. The difficulty with a pull system, you can get left with obsolete. If you don't switch the system off before an item goes obsolete, you're going to end up with stuff around you that you don't need. But hey, I think you probably end up with stuff around you anyway, even with this method. Now, to be quite honest, it's very rare that things go obsolete like that. Usually what happens, of course, is that the item gets less and less popular, and so the demand for it gently goes down. Now, providing you're managing this system properly and not just ignoring it, which is really important, you have to manage it. You should see that coming, and therefore you can manage your obsolete. You can easily just drop your maximums, lower your buy signal levels and things like this, so that you have the minimum amount of obsolete left. But obsolescence is the biggest risk to the fixed location system. But apart from that, it's less people, it's less equipment, it's less software, it's less cost. Oh, and by the way, it works so much better. Fixed locations, that is the lean way to set your warehouses up. Anything else simply doesn't work and simply isn't lean. Any company that says we're into lean and does this just isn't, and just not paying attention. You're not paying attention to how lean really works, and you're not setting systems up to pull. And pull is the centerpiece of lean. Use fixed locations, less stock, more reliable, make more money. It's what I love to do.